Welcome to everyone for this webinar on mobile forms. It's a very important topic considering the current times and all the trends that we're seeing for going paperless and contactless. We do have a great feature in PracticeWeb to use mobile forms, and so we wanted to really share that with everyone and make sure that you're able to take full advantage of that in your practices. So I did want to say a few housekeeping matters at the beginning. We do have a Q&A option on the, it should be on the left side of your screen there in Zoho Meeting. So if you have any questions, you can pose them in that Q&A section and we will answer them either as we go along or at the very end. We'll have a Q&A session as well. So with that, we'll get started. So in today's webinar on mobile forms, we're going to cover why you should use mobile forms and why they're so important for your practice, how to create and deliver the mobile forms to new and existing patients, for example, in patient registration or any update forms that you need to provide to existing patients. Then we're going to look at how you can create mobile treatment consents, for example, when the patient is in the operatory, in the chair, and you want them to understand and agree to the treatment consent. The fourth topic is going to be related to customizing mobile forms to fit your practice like a glove. Make sure it's adapted to what you want to accomplish with the forms. And then finally, we're going to cover pre-appointment screening as it relates to COVID-19. So getting all of the information you need from the patients before they come in to clear them from a health and safety perspective. One thing we wanted to start out with is share, as I mentioned, the current environment is really emphasizing reducing contact with your patients as far as possible when it comes to forms. Things that just can be eliminated, you should try to eliminate them. Here you can see just an excerpt from the ADA guidelines on in-office patient registration. You can see all of the very complicated measures that they recommend. So for example, switching pens when different patients are using them, wiping down all surfaces that are used by patients, for example, clipboard where you have your paper forms, anything else that's high touch, and using specific cleaning products to make sure they are disinfected. So a lot of complicated measures that you can essentially avoid when it comes to patient forms if you're using the mobile forms that we're going to go over today. So again, here's some more guidelines on, and especially for your front desk staff, this is really where it comes in to maintain their safety and health when it comes to COVID-19 and anything else going on. You want to use a method that's going to minimize that contact. So here, as you see, the ADA is recommending that every time you interact with the patient or touch something that they've touched, you need to wash your hands. So again, all of this can be avoided if you use mobile forms with PracticeWeb. Another thing with mobile forms is that you're really going paperless. So it's not just contactless, it's paperless. And I like this quote here. It's from actually an article written several years ago, almost more than 15 years ago, which says essentially that paper record keeping to paperless is like going from riding horses to driving automobiles. Driving definitely requires new skills, but it also makes riding horses sound ridiculous. So that's really what you're doing when you're going from a paper-based approach with forms to paperless. You're going from horses to cars. Now, the question is, maybe in more detail, why mobile forms? Why should we integrate this new method in our office? It does have a bit of a very small, but a bit of a learning curve. Anything you're adding new requires people to learn that, but why is it really worthwhile? So number one, as we mentioned, it's contactless. So you minimize contact, which is important in the current environment that we're going through. Number two, it's paperless. So you're going to have a lot of benefits of that, of going digital, from handling all the paper records and paper forms to having everything stored and saved directly in PracticeWeb. Along with that, you avoid any manual entry errors by your staff. So if you can't read someone's handwriting, or if you're doing it too quickly, entering it in too quickly, then you may have these manual entry errors, and that can be very costly and time consuming for your practice. Another thing is you saved staff time. So besides the entry errors, you will not have a situation where you're spending tons of time manually entering the data into your practice web, because now it's all digital, it's all automatically retrieved in practice web. The fifth reason is there's no costly hardware. With mobile forms, you can, as we're going to demonstrate today, you can send these forms to the patient. They're going to open them up on their own mobile devices, so they're really using their own hardware to complete these forms. So there's no costly hardware or initial investment to put into place to get this going. And also, you can complete the forms anywhere. So patients can complete them from the comfort of their home, or if they're in the waiting room, if they're anywhere else at a restaurant, they can do it anywhere they want. So it's very, very convenient for the patient and for the office to get this done, ideally before the appointment that they're coming in for. Last thing is it's very modern and professional. Patients are always looking for hints of how is this practice, especially if they're a new patient. They're looking at, are you guys doing the latest and greatest? Are you making it easy for me as a patient? Are you making it convenient? Can I trust you? And a lot of that trust is built from this first interaction you're getting with the patient forms, one of the first interactions. So you want to portray that we are using the latest technology and we're making it convenient and easy for you to interact with us and give us your information. So that's the why mobile forms. I'm going to quickly mention, because I know some of you may be thinking about this up front. So what's it going to, or how do you actually get the mobile forms? So the first thing you need to do is upgrade to Practice Web version. The latest version is 19.2.85.2. This has actually been available since 19.2.84. So if you're on that version, yeah, you will be able to use this. But if you want, we just published some additional mobile forms as default forms you can use, like consent forms, which I'll show you today. So if you want to get all of that, then just upgrade to the latest version. And to do that, we're going to email the password and instructions to all clients who are on paid support. And if you're not on paid support, you can renew support and get that provided to you. Another question you may have is, what's this going to cost me? So I'm going to mention that up front here. Mobile forms are free with your paid support. That's a great aspect. We're always trying to add new services and features with your paid support. So this is absolutely free. If you're not on support, it's only $109 a month. And that's going to save, that price right there is a discount of $120 per year. And that's something we have right now going through July 31. Another aspect is, if you want to text your mobile forms, you can get PW Connect, which also it's our full-blown texting service, which is very effective for offices. And that includes auto confirmations, reminders, appointment reminders, recalls, marketing, and two-way texting. So I'm going to show you how this works in conjunction with PW Connect. You can also email the forms. You can also put them on your website. So it's not the only method, but it's the most convenient method. And that's, if you don't have that, it's $69 a month. And with this current price, you save $360 per year. So with that being said, I'm going to get right into the mobile forms. So let's say you have your patient registration. So your patient registration would show up on your website, on your browser, and this is kind of the traditional approach for online forms. Online forms are still great. I mean, web forms are still great to use the browser version. If someone's using a browser, it's pretty simple, very, all at a glance, you can finish it pretty quickly. So this is still a good option, but this is the online form approach. And today we're going to talk about the mobile form, which is a little bit different than that, and a little bit, it's more convenient when you're filling it out from your phone. So let's get started on that. One thing I want to mention is you can put these forms, these mobile forms, on your website if you'd like. So as you saw here, You can put them on your website like this if you'd like. So that's certainly an option if you want to put mobile versions of your forms on your website. So now if someone goes to your website from their phone, which is very often, then when they click on these buttons, they're going to pull up a mobile form instead of the browser version that I showed you here. And I'll show you what the mobile version looks like in just a second. So this is one option, put it on your website. Another option, which I'm going to focus on, is sending it from the texting service or emailing it to your patients. So let's look at the text option. So I have some forms set up here, and let me talk quickly about how to get these forms set up so you're aware of that. All you do is simply go to, in your practice web, go to the Sheets menu under the Setup menu. So you click there, and we have a lot of forms here on the left side, and you just have to simply copy them and bring them over. So for example, we have consent forms, patient registration. I've renamed some of these for purposes of this demo, but like your patient registration, medical history, HIPAA form, all of that is listed here in this section. And you can see to the far right, there's a column called Use Mobile Layout. So this is telling you that this is ready to be used in a mobile format. And when you pull one up, you'll see that the mobile format is showing up on the right side or left side here. And it's using the mobile layout is selected. That means it's ready to go. And all of the default forms we have are ready for you to use in a mobile format. So that's essentially how you set that up. And there's one more setup point for consent forms, which I'll mention later when we look at consent forms. So once you set that up or bring them into Sheets, now you go to Web Forms, which is under the Setup menu, and you simply add these web forms in. So you will click on this Add button, select the form you want to create as a mobile form, and then click OK. I'm not going to do that right now because I've already created the forms, but you simply click OK, and it'll generate this link, which is a browser address. So if you want to use that browser format that I showed you earlier, right here, that's that link, and this link is going to be for the mobile version of the form. So now, without further ado, let's look at how to text these forms. So let's take an example where it's a new patient. So one great thing about this texting option is if you select the patient, so let's select me here as the patient. Now, if I go to Web Forms under Setup, you can see that my name has been pre-filled for me as the patient. So now there's not going to be an issue where they put a different name and doesn't match with your record. It's going to pre-fill that name. They can obviously modify it if they need to, but as long as you have it correct in your system, then it's going to be what they use for the form. So that's a nice feature to text it to the selected patient. So let's just choose these first 4 forms here, and I'm going to text that. So the text has been sent. I'm going to pull up that form. I'm sorry, pull up that text message. Here's the text message that I received, and you can see here when it's sent in an actual phone, not on. I'm using Google Voice to demonstrate, but when it's sent on an actual form, these will all be hyperlinked. So you can simply click on each of these links to fill out the forms. So let's take this first one here, and I'm going to pull it up on a iPhone simulator to see what it looks like. So you can see this is the mobile version. The name has been pre-filled. Birth date I can fill in there. So let's put in the birth date here. And this is the registration. So as you can see, there all the common information you would collect is in here, and you can modify, customize this. But I'm not going to complete all of this right now to save time, but you can see all of the common information which you would collect is included in here. And it's very easy to type in on the phone because the fields are very big and it's easy for them to type it in. So it's very, very, very good for the patient from a user or experience standpoint. This is the insurance section. They can fill that out. And then if they have any comments, need more info about your practice hours, let's say. So then once they fill out this form, they will submit. And a nice thing is that there's going to be a reminder. So if you sent those forms together, those 4 forms together, it's going to remind them, hey, you still have to fill out these other 3 forms. So let's just look at one more of those, and then for the sake of the demo, and we'll move on to the next topic. So I'm going to go back. This is the next form. Let's pretend they're clicking on this from their iPhone or their Android phone, and go back here. So once they click on it, it's automatically going to open up that page on their phone. And again, they're going to fill out the information. This is medical history. So they can put in all of the background for their medical history and their medications, any allergies that they're having, medical conditions. Again, this is customizable, and we can help you with that to match your practice. And reason for today's visit, whether there's any pain, their history of getting dental treatment, date of last cleaning exam. And this is an example where you can actually sign it as well. So you can put signatures in any of these forms that you'd like. So they can sign right on there, and this will be recorded in PracticeWeb for your reference. So you just click Save Signature. I want to show you one thing here. We do have the ability to require certain fields in the forms if you'd like to do that. So here you can see birth date was required. So it's telling me, hey, you still have to fill that out. So I'm going to do that. And then if that's the only one, so it's saying questions with checkbox answers are required. So all these checkbox ones are also required in this particular form. So I'm going to quickly check them. So that is done. And now I'm going to submit the form. So that has been submitted. Okay, so now if we go back, these are the other 2 forms they would fill out, but I'm not going to open them up right now. We will look at them in a little bit, but this is the HIPAA form and the financial agreement form. So the next, that's how you would send the forms via text. Now you can also do this using email, and this is included in your support. And if I go to the email, again, a patient has to be selected for this to work. So the current patient will get an email that you're going to send them. So here I've created some templates. It's very easy to create templates. You simply click on Add, and you will put in the links to these forms. And those links, again, you will capture from over here. So you select the mobile form. So you would copy that, go to email, and now when you're creating, let's look at one of these templates. So this is a template. You can actually do some nice HTML editing, so it's more of a hyperlink. As you can see here, it's very easy to do that. You just create an external link and label it, and then now it's all hyperlinked instead of having like a raw link in your email. So it looks more professional, but you can do it either way. So you would simply set up your template like we've done here, and we can help you with this if you have questions on support. And now that I've set this one up, I'm going to select that template by clicking Insert. And now this is my new patient forms template. And now if I send that, and this email, obviously their email address, either you have to put it in here manually, or it'll just be, in this case, it's already entered in the patient's records. That should be part of your intake process. So you want the phone number in there if you're texting them. You want the email in there if you're emailing them. But going back there, inserting it, and I'm going to click Send. And that email has been sent. So let's open up that email. Okay, here's the email that I received. And this is from the practice. And now if I click on any, again, these are going to be clicked most often from their phone. So when they open it from their phone, it's going to look similar to how we looked at it over here. But if I just click on it from a browser, it's going to open it up in my browser if I'm on a computer. So it's the same form, but just on a browser. But when they're doing it from their phone, it's going to open it up looking like what we saw in this section here. So that's how you would email. I'm going to come back to that email option a few times, but again, you can create these templates and it's a very convenient way. So whenever a new patient schedules an appointment, you can go in here, have your template ready and send it right away to their email address for them to complete those forms. So next, I wanted to mention or show you how those forms are retrieved. So we saw that we submitted some forms using the iPhone, and now I want to show you how to get those forms into your system. So you would simply go to the Tools menu, click on Web Forms, and click on Retrieve New Forms. And that should show you right here the forms we just submitted. Now let's click on the first one, which is the patient registration. If you double click on that, you can see whatever was filled out. I didn't complete all of it, so it's blank, but some of the information is there, anything I completed, and the comments that they provided for your practice. So this is now automatically in the patient's record. You don't have to do anything additional. It's in the patient record. So to show you that, I can click out of here. The patient is selected. I click on Forms, and I can see here's the form that they filled out. And you can create a PDF if you'd like to. If you want to send a copy of it to the patient, you can email it from here as well. It's all available for you. So that's a great way to retrieve these forms. Now, let's say I want to look at the signature. If you had a signature, then let me pull up this medical history form. It'll say here, signed online, create PDF to view. You simply click on create PDF. And then it's right here. The signature is right here. So this will show the signature. And that's going to be available anytime you want to look at that signature. So you don't necessarily have to save this anywhere. As long as you have the form in here, you can view that signature anytime you'd want. So that's how you would look at the signature. Now, what I showed you here for web forms, you can do this for a new patient. You can also do it just as effectively for an existing patient. So if you want to have them update their medical history, or maybe you have an updated HIPAA form or financial agreement, you can add those here and send them to the patient via text or email just the same way I did for the new patient. So it works for everyone, and it's really meant to help you with all of your patient forms for new and existing patients. The other situation that you might encounter besides just the regular intake forms or updated medical history, et cetera, you might have a situation where you want to get a consent, a treatment consent. So let's make this really easy for everyone. Let's imagine the patient is in the chair. So I'm the patient in this case, I'm in the chair, and the doctor has proposed treatment. I want to go ahead and take care of that treatment today. The doctor wants to get me to consent to that treatment, make sure I understand the risks and different aspects of it. Then I can, as the office, I can immediately text that form to the patient. They're going to get it right in their mobile device, and they can fill it out. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So here's an extraction consent that I have uploaded already as a web form and mobile form. So I'm going to take that and use a text method. So I'm going to text it. Click text. Text is sent. And now we will see that right here. So the text came up. I'm going to, as the patient, I'm going to obviously just click on this, but for this, I'm going to copy and paste because it's not a real iPhone. And I'm going to put it into the iPhone or Android device. There it is. Okay. So there's the extraction consent. Now I can go through, put in my information again, and read all of this information. So this is customizable. I'm going to show you how to modify your consents in a moment, but it's very important when it comes to consents, you want to make sure they're agreeing to everything. So you don't want to skimp on this, but there's also a balance that you don't want to overwhelm them with too much information. So we have these default consent forms, which we think are very thorough, but you can modify them. It's entirely up to you because that's your responsibility to have the proper consent forms and language. So this one requires initialing every paragraph. That's a nice feature. You can take that out if you don't want that, but it's a nice feature to make sure they read every paragraph in this consent. I'm going to go through, there's about 8 paragraphs on this one. So, you can see all this information here. I'm going to initial them. And I'm going to sign it. And then save the signature and submit. Now, once it's submitted, you retrieve it the same way. Go back to Practice Web, click on Tools, Web Forms, Retrieve. It's right there. It's all completed and it's signed. If you want to look at the signature, you just click on Create PDF, and it's right here. So that's part of the record now. So again, to show you that if I click on, I'm in this patient, I click on their forms, it's right here, the one that they completed. So that is the way to retrieve and view that extraction consent. And then now you're safe to proceed with the treatment. Now, I mentioned that you can customize forms. So for customizing forms, you simply go to the Setup menu and then Sheets, and you will go into whichever form you want to customize. So let's say consent. I actually created a customized one here. So let's look at the original. Let's say maybe you think, well, I don't need to put in this information about dry socket. It's not that important. And I want to add a little paragraph at the top about what this procedure entails, right? So I'm going to show you how I've already done that. I just simply, you can either modify the one that you have here, or you can create a duplicate one. We recommend sometimes creating a duplicate one so you can preserve the original version of the form. So I've created a duplicate just by clicking this button. And so here it is. I opened it up and I added this paragraph at the beginning, which talks about what the tooth extraction entails. And I removed that paragraph about the dry socket. So this has been modified. The way to add paragraphs, this is getting more into how to work with sheets, and we have tutorials on that, but you simply would create a new static text field and add that static text field, put it in here. One thing you have to remember when you're adding fields for mobile forms, you want to make sure it's check marked here for include in mobile, so it will show up in the mobile version. And tab order, you can simply put a 1 in there. Once you do that, what's going to happen is the new field that you've added will show up at the top, and you can kind of drag and drop that field wherever you want it to go, and it'll move around. So if I want to put it there, I can move it around. So this is how that customization works. Now that I've customized this extraction form, I'm going to go back out to Setup, Web Forms. I've already added it here, but if I were to add it, you would just find that new form that you created and then click OK, and it'll create that web form and mobile form. So now let's look at that real quick, that it indeed worked. So I'm going to just copy that just for this demo. Obviously, you would be texting this to the patient, but I'm going to just show you that it updated that information. So you can see here now there's a new paragraph talking about what is a tooth extraction, what does it involve, why is it done, and I removed that paragraph about dry socket. So that's a very quick example of how to customize a consent form. One other thing to remember is that this heading up at the top is coming from whatever you title the sheet. So if you want to include your practice name in there, that's very good. And then you would label the form based on the content. So to show you that here, you go to Sheets and then click on the one that I just created. Then you would click on Edit Properties, and you can modify the name of the sheet right here, and that's what's going to show up in the header of the form. So that's a quick side on that. Now, if I want to customize other forms, for example, financial agreement, you would do the same thing, just double click on the form, and you can modify this text however you see fit here. So you just let's say you just want to modify this paragraph, you can do that. Or you can add new paragraphs, as I showed you earlier with the consent form using the static text field. There's a lot of other options here, but I'm just going to mention the static text for now. So financial agreement can be modified the same way, and it would update in the mobile version of that form. But when you modify it, you want to create a new version of that form under the web forms menu. So it's not going to automatically update your existing web form. You just create a new one, as I showed you with the consent form. And that's financial. This is HIPAA, for example, same thing. If I want to change what's written here, I can modify this or add new paragraphs, text, check boxes, etc. Now, the next topic I wanted to cover, one of basically the last key topic here. With the current environment, we have a lot of screening that is recommended and required in some cases. So we want to do some health screening for COVID-19. We did do a webinar earlier touching upon this, but I wanted to cover it again here since we're talking about mobile forms. So pre-screening is recommended by the ADA and the CDC. We have a form that is included in Practice Web, which is modeled after this form, which is the ADA form. There's a very nice toolkit that they've published online that has a bunch of useful information. I showed you some excerpts from that earlier at the beginning of this webinar, but there's a lot of information in that toolkit. We'll include that link in our follow-up email to this webinar, but this form is in that toolkit. So we use that ADA form for both English and Spanish versions to make sure you're getting the right information for screening. So the COVID-19 forms are right here. It's COVID-19 screening, COV-19SP, that form R, that's the Spanish version. You simply copy that over to your custom forms, and now you have them activated. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to show you in the mobile version as well, but this is what it looks like in the Sheets section. Now let's look at how to create a mobile form out of that and how that's used. So you would go down to set up web forms again, and you can see here I created those two forms. If it's not in there already, you just click on add, select the screening form, click OK. Same thing with the Spanish version. So now these are all set up, ready to go. One very nice thing with if you have PW Connect is that we are including these forms automatically in your appointment confirmation text. So I did have a image of that to show you what that looks like. So in the confirmation text, it will automatically append. You don't have to do anything. Once you've added it into Sheets, and number two, you've created the web form out of it, our system automatically looks for that and will include that in your confirmation text. So every time you send out that confirmation a few days before, you'll have them complete this form, and now you'll know at least a few days in advance that whether this patient should still come in or not, and that gives you enough time to really reschedule that patient if needed and fill that slot with someone else who needs to come in. So that's a nice feature with our PW Connect service. Another aspect is if you want to manually text that, then it works the same way as I showed with the other forms. So you go back to the cloud form setup screen, click on this, and you can text that to a patient if you'd like. Right here, you can see that name is pre-filled. I'm going to text that, and we'll pull up a text message. Here it is. So I would click on this link from my phone, and here is that COVID-19 screening form. And so here you can fill in the information. Let's put in birth date. And these are all the questions. I'm going to say no. I'm going to act like I'm a healthy patient with no issues right now. Go through all of this, and these are all required. And you can customize this as well if you want to put some different instructions in here, which are useful. The important thing is to have them sign it. Then you would save that signature, submit. Now it's been submitted. Go back to Practice Web, and same thing if you want to retrieve that. And I would check these forms once a day or a few times a day because you're going to be sending these out if you're using our texting service, you're going to get a lot of these in. So once a day or twice a day or more, you would be checking in here to see any new ones that came in that you need to look at, and just have someone reviewing all these forms. That's the best protocol. So you would pull this one up that's been submitted. You can see all their responses. If you want to look at their signature, you can create that PDF and you'll see their signature here. And you can even have your staff member sign this as well if you want to have a record that someone actually reviewed this. So this is a very buttoned up, good approach to take. Now, if we go back, another option is going to be to email. So let's select that patient again, and I've created a template for the pre-screening. So here I will just insert that, and I'm going to send that to the patient. Here's the email. Here's the form. So now I can fill out the form from my phone or on the computer if I'd like to. So that's a great way to do it through email as well. Now, next is going to be just, I think that's actually everything that we wanted to cover. Oh, one more thing. There's one feature, which is if you want to have this form, this screening form included in your same-day reminder texts that go out. If you're using PW Connect, you can also do that. Some of our clients have chosen to do that just to have in case maybe they didn't fill it out or they want a very real-time information of how they're doing, because things can change over a number of days with your health, so in COVID-19. So if you want to include it in your same-day appointment reminder, you would simply open up PW Connect, go to the text template section, then go to the Customize Automated Text tab, select the same-day appointment reminder option. And again, this same-day appointment reminder can also go the day before. That's customizable. We just call it same day, but it depends on how you have set it up in your delivery schedule. So if you set it up the day before, then it would go out the day before. So this is where you would customize that text. I've just added this sentence here. If you haven't done so already, please complete this COVID-19 screening form. And that's going to be the same link to open up the mobile form on their phone. And the same thing for the Spanish. So one note on the Spanish, because that's been a question. The way the Spanish works is it's going to look at the language you've selected for that patient. So there's a language section right here. And if you selected Spanish, then they're going to automatically get the Spanish form. You don't have to do anything extra for that. This is, again, if you're using the PW Connect service where it's the confirmation text or the reminder text, then it's going to automatically look at whether it's English or Spanish and give them the right form. If you're emailing, then that's really up to you. You have to send them the right form, but you can I would create 2 different templates, one from English, one for Spanish, and then include those forms in there. And one more time as a reminder, if you want to pick up that link to put it in your PW Connect same-day reminder text or in your email templates, you just right-click, and where it says copy cell text, that's what you want. Now it's on your clipboard, and then you go into the email or the PW Connect text template and just copy it into that. And as I mentioned in the email, you can hyperlink a phrase where it just says, please click here, and then you hyperlink that using the HTML text editor in that email template section. If that sounds complicated, it's really not, but if it sounds complicated, you can call us and we'll walk you through that without any issues. So that's how you get it in there. Now, that's everything we wanted to cover for mobile forms. I did want to cover a few closing remarks on this. So again, the pricing, mobile forms are free if you have paid support. If you don't have paid support, just give us a call and we can get you renewed on that. It's $109 a month, and plenty more comes with that. You get upgrades, a lot of free services like dentist portal, patient portal, these mobile forms, practice analyzer, and as I mentioned, the upgrade. So a lot of new features every few months, as well as support to call in with any questions. So support is like the lifeline. It should be like the lifeline of your practice when it comes to practice web, and you don't want to skimp on that, because it's really going to support everything you're doing and maximize your use of the software. So it's a small investment for that. Now, if you want to text, as I mentioned, it's PW Connect, and that's $69 a month, our special offer, which expires on July 31. So you can also contact us. We'll include a sign-up form for that in our email, but you can call us to get signed up for that. I did want to open it up for questions at this point. I'm going to look and see if we got any questions. We do have a few here. So one person asked if this is for new patients only or for existing and updates, and it certainly is for updates as well. So as I mentioned, you can use this whole setup for any forms, like medical history update or consent forms, which would be for existing and new patients, as well as any updated HIPAA or financial agreement forms. So it's perfectly used for both new and existing patients. One question was whether this webinar is going to be saved, and it certainly will be saved. We're going to upload it to our YouTube channel and email it out to everyone, so you'll be able to watch this again. And I maybe should have mentioned that at the beginning, but that is going to be available for everyone to watch again. Do all the forms, another question is, do all the forms also come in Spanish? The COVID-19 form comes in Spanish. The other ones do not come in Spanish, but you can fairly easily modify all you have to do is, let's say the financial agreement, you want to put it in Spanish. You just double click on that form and update this language. One thing we love to do is use Google Translate. So Google Translate is a lifesaver. If you don't have any Spanish-speaking team members in the office, you can simply go to Google Translate and translate it from English to Spanish. So not Dutch, English here to Spanish. So you would just select Spanish, and you can really, what I would do is just go back into here, copy this, go back to my browser where Google Translate is open, go like that, and then you'll have to go in and clean it up a little bit, but it's very easy. Then once this is ready, you just copy from here, put it right back into this form, and obviously create a duplicate version of the form. Don't modify the existing one, because you should have one that's English and one Spanish. And then once you do that, you can follow the same steps, go to Setup, Web Forms, create your Spanish form by clicking on Add It. You'll have it labeled hopefully as Spanish, and you just select that, and it shows up here. One other question is, can you change the tooth number or surface on the consents before sending as a text message? That's a good question. I think on the consent form, you can change it if you pull it up in Practice Web. I think when you're creating the web form, let me think about that. Let me pull up the consent form here. I believe there is a way to do that from within Practice Web. Let me see here. Extraction consent. So yeah, the question is whether we can put a tooth number in here. I think there is a way. Tooth number right here. So you can put a tooth number. We haven't done it on this consent form, but you can put a tooth number. So you would essentially put it here at the top, and you can put a label next to it just saying tooth number. You would have to have so this is good when the patient's in the chair. You can have them pull up the form. You would type in the tooth number for them or tell them what to type in there, and then because it's something that they would fill out, and then it will be submitted and you'll retrieve it, and there'll be a record of that tooth number in this form. So yes, you can definitely add the tooth number right here. And you can add a label that just says tooth number, and then it'll be a little box where they type it in. So it'll be part of your form. So that's a good question. How do we make fields to be required for patients to fill out? Another good question. So to do that, you would, let's say this one here. So Right here is a box that says required. So you just click that box and it'll become a required field. So anything that's going to be an input field where the patient has to type something in, there's going to be this option to make it required. And that's all you have to do. Just click that, click OK, now it's required. And that will work for the mobile form as well. Last question I see is, can the mobile forms be automatically retrieved instead of having staff go and manually retrieve them? At this point, it is manual, but it's very simple, in my opinion. You just go Tools, Web Forms, and click on this button, and everything that has been submitted since the last time you retrieved will show up here. And the one great thing, it is, in a sense, it is automatic. Part of it's automatic because you're not having to pull up these forms and find the right patient and save it to the right patient's file. As I showed you, once you retrieve it, you're done. As it says here, all retrieved forms are automatically attached to the correct patient. So all these forms that were under this patient, let me make sure I selected the right one. They're right here. And I didn't have to do anything to put them here. I just had to click on the retrieve. So if you have 20 patients submitting forms and they show up here, you simply click this button and now they've all been saved to the respective patient records. So with that, I don't see any other questions. We'll end on that note. And I really appreciate everyone for taking out your valuable time to take a look at this. I think it's going to be great for your practice. And it really will be good for the current environment where you want to go contactless and paperless. And the great thing is that it's included in your paid support. If you want to do the texting, it's an excellent service, well worth the minimal investment for that. And it really will boost not only your productivity going paperless, but also your revenue can really be boosted with PW Connect. So we've covered that in previous webinars, and we'll do it again in the future. So thanks again for your time, and we will send this recording out of the webinar, and we will do another one next month for a topic that's really going to be helpful for your practice. Thanks again. Have a nice day.